Dude, you see all these books over here? If anything does stress me out in life, it's a book that I have not read.
I think I know that's why you're so knowledgeable. So, but do you still believe in heaven after you die? Or?
Yeah, there's no heaven. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Let me ask you something. What is it that you feel like I know that you don't know?
I mean, what do you not know? It's like, yeah. Dang, that's deep, bro. Oh, man. What's up, guys? This is a Creed podcast. I'm Aaron, your host, and I'm interviewing the man himself, Mr. Creed. I'm excited to learn and grow from this because every time we talk, it's like I learn something new from you, you know.
For real.
So, and I'm interviewing the wisest person I know for his age. Yeah, he knows a lot. One thing that fascinates me about him is just he's read a lot of books and he dives into stuff. You know, he just dives in head first to stuff, and so that's what I appreciate about you. Diving right into it, man. Like, what do you think makes you so like successful at learning things? Like, how do you learn things so well? Because like not everybody can read a book. Like, I don't know, there's not very many people that can read 4 books a month, or you probably read more than that, but it's like, so how do you learn so fast?
That would be the record, but no, man, I appreciate it. That's a huge compliment, bro. You said I'm the wisest person for his age.
Yeah.
That's a compliment. Yeah. Well, but to answer your question, it took me a while to like figure out how to read like 4 books in a month because I'm a slow reader, dude. And because I like when I was in school, you know, they said, you know, I had a reading disability or something like that. I don't believe that. I didn't have no disability, man, but I just thought I was lazy, dude. So I got into the habit of reading in 2017, and it wasn't until actually last year that I got into the habit of reading 4 books a month. But sometimes I slack, so you know, I've got a couple books I'm reading right now that I'm kind of slow at, but it depends on the size of the book. But yeah, just practice, and I learned how to speed read. It's a technique.
Heck yeah, dude. The more you learn, the less you feel like you know. Has that been the case for you?
You've heard me say that, like,
yeah,
because I've heard you say, like, you know, you think I'm smart or wise and stuff, and in my head I'm like, I don't know. It's humbling to hear that. I learn so much. I try to learn as much as I can. I watch a lot of videos. I read books. I apply principles in my life. But the more I learn, like whether it's history, whether it's science, whether it's things on God and spiritual things, the more I realize I'm like, dude, I am like probably the most ignorant person on planet Earth. Like, I genuinely feel like that. And it could be an uncomfortable feeling too. Because some people, yeah, I might have more knowledge than like certain people, but I don't look at myself like I'm above. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's funny. So
Aaron's running for president, by the way.
Yeah.
Got his suit on.
Like, okay, so I heard this thing: the more wise you get, the more sad you get, or something like that. Is that like because you just know, like, yeah? Is that true? Kind of. Can you dive into that a little?
I don't look at myself as a wise person, but
oh yeah,
the more I learn about God, the more I learn, the more I realize like how deeply far gone people are, you know, in ignorance, and how lost they really are. And then I'm like, okay, I'm like 10 layers deep on something that I want to share with someone that might help them with their situation, but they're on the first layer, and so if I share one layer, they're gonna be, you know, I mean, you see some of my content, like some people they like, I don't agree with that, and you know, I'm like, you know, if I could just show them how many layers deep I am on this thing, they would see it, but I have to get through that first layer, and that's where they fight. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, And I've seen a lot of your comments. Like, you're making some noise. And how many views have you gotten in the last? You've gotten what? Last time I talked to you, you got like 200,000 views in the last like in 30 days. That was a while back, but
yeah. Yeah, at that time up till now, I'm not really sure how to really calculate, but
yeah.
but the thing is like you take a TikTok is like when you start a brand new account, you know, your first couple videos are probably gonna take off really fast. So not as many views as my first video that I ever made, but because that one by itself got like 100-something thousand views. So, but now on average, like on my Instagram, if I specific topics that I talk about, on average it'll be like 10,000 views, 13,000 views, 8,000, 5,000. But I haven't calculated everything recently.
Yeah. I feel that. So I wanted to dive into like your story a little bit. So like, so let's teach me about pickpocketing, man. I want to get in. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But you said what really stood out to me about what you like your interview with John is you just dive into things. Like I said, that's what I appreciate about you. You're just like, I mean, even the way you pursued God, like nobody, like I didn't go to church like 3 times a day and like for 2 days a week, and then all these Bible studies and all that. So like, but just tell me about like how your journey was like, or like when you were diving into the things you're diving into, like for example, like searching for God or whatever, like, or anything you want to dive into that you really dove into, like magic or whatever, like what makes you just like dive into stuff so much? Like what makes you like just, because not a lot of people are like that, you know. A lot of people like do a little bit of that, a little dabble, you know. Most people are dabblers, Tony Robbins says. So what makes you like dive in head first to like a lot of things you do, like even bodybuilding, you know, you've gotten
Man, that the heck, that is true. Dang, what the heck? Like, that is true. Like, let me rewind back in time. When I was younger, you know, when I grew up with my grandfather and stuff, I tell this story probably 1,000 times, but I was adopted by my grandfather. And as a kid, I didn't really feel like I got a lot of attention, you know. And like when I was at school, you know, I wasn't really popular. I was shy. And so being a shy kid, you know, I'm like, what can I do to be noticed? Like, someone just pay attention to me. I exist. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, when I was a kid, I was like, man, I want to be the best skateboarder in the world. I'm going to be freaking the greatest. But then obviously I grew up out of that. And then before 9th grade came up, I'm like, you know, I'm going to become the greatest illusionist in the world. And so something about that, I just wanted to be recognized. I think it's an ego thing at first. But when it came to like God, you know, I'm like, I think just whatever it is that I'm doing, I think it's just kind of in my nature. Whatever it is I'm doing, I'm like, I'm one track mind. When it comes to like God and stuff, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna learn everything I can. And I remember, I'm like, I'm gonna be a pastor, and I'm gonna be a missionary. I'm gonna be, you know, I look in the Bible. Is it okay to be an apostle? I want to be an apostle. so I'm like, whatever the highest degree of whatever it is that you can do, I just want to do that. And then also, yeah, getting into bodybuilding and exercising. You know, I don't do bodybuilding anymore, but I exercise regularly. I just wanted to look as good as I possibly could. And especially, you probably hear the stories about people who, you know, they have a girlfriend and then they have a broken heart and then they end up going to the gym. That was me. You know? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym. And going to the gym, you know, you feel good. When you got cortisol running through your body and you're like stressing out, I'm like, I'm going to the gym. So, but I don't use the gym anymore or anything to get rid of stress. But no, that's how I was. I think I just needed something to distract my mind. And you know, I get all deep into it. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now it's for good reasons. Now it's not because I'm depressed or anything. Now it's just self-discipline.
Yeah. How do you take away the ego of everything? Take away the ego out of everything. Like, just he seems to never like have an ego about like what he's doing, like, if that makes sense. Like for example, okay, I'm thinking about myself. What are people thinking of me? But it's like you never really think of that. Like you always think of you're never in your ego, like you say. You can explain what that means, but we kind of have that talk of like thinking about yourself in a sense. You know, you're always thinking about like I don't know how to explain it. If that makes sense.
I know
like,
what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to the ego, I study the ego, you know, like, and not just what the Bible has to say about it, but what other people have to say about psychology and whatever. Because the Bible talks about the ego, but when the Bible talks about ego, it's referring to it as the flesh. You know, I mean, that's the best way you could put it when you want to use that word ego. But one thing is I notice is there's this movie where I'm not going to explain the whole movie. It's kind of a crazy movie, but I don't even remember what. I think it's called The Revolver or something. It's a crazy movie. But there's a scene at the end of that movie where the main character had a lot of anger towards another character, and you know, some stuff happened, people were killed and whatever, and he felt like he needed to go and forgive this man for all the stuff that he put him through. And he somehow, I think he breaks into the guy's home or something. I forget how it happened, but he ends up in the guy's apartment or penthouse, and I think the dude was laying down with some other chick or something, and then he walks into the room and he's like, "Hey," the guy just before having a conversation with him, he's in an elevator, and it's like his ego is tripping out. It's like, you know, it's talking to him in his head, and don't forgive him. You're supposed to be angry at him. Like, what are you doing and whatever. And so at some point he forgives the guy, and the guy just goes crazy, you know, like he couldn't believe that this guy came to forgive him, and it upset him because he felt like he had power over him because, you know, he was angry at him, and it made him mad, and so his ego was tripping out, like how are you gonna just let go of the situation, you know, like, and he could tell when the guy forgave him, he genuinely let it go and didn't even care anymore, and that bothered him. And so anyways, I say that because I noticed that the ego, everyone has an ego, and I noticed that even if when you're a Christian, you have an ego, like you have a Bible, and you're trying to serve God, you're trying to do things the right way, but the ego, you learn a few Bible verses and then you feel like you need to go and tell everybody about it, rather than sitting still and absorbing the information on your own and how does it apply to your life? Some people say, like, you know, you should like study the Bible so that you can like go and preach it to people. But no, you should study the Bible so you can learn for yourself. And for me, like when I read a book, I'm doing that. Like, you ever had a time where you're reading a book and you're just underlining things that you agree with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like people do that. It's like you're underlining the things that you agree with. No, what about underlining things that you disagree with and try to figure out, like, what does this person mean when they say that? Rather than being triggered emotionally, why don't you try to figure out what they mean? Or if you're having a conversation with somebody and you're triggered by something that they said, why don't you look at yourself and be like, why did I get triggered when this person said this thing that I disagree with?
Dang, bro.
But people don't do that. They just want to be triggered emotionally and go on about their life and then talk about, oh, this person triggered me. And now they're gossiping. Ego. Now the ego wants to gossip now about something that triggered the ego. And so with all that in mind, I say I pay attention to my ego to the best I can, you know, because the ego is involved with so many things that even if you get a good paying job, all of a sudden you kind of like want to puff your chest out because you feel like you're kind of low key a little bit superior than the average person. And the ego is involved with everything. If you talk to a hot girl, you kind of feel like, oh man, like who's paying attention to me watching this, talking to this hot girl? Oh, you're talking to the hot girl. You try to make sure that whatever you tell her is the best thing about your life. You know, you don't want to tell her your vulnerabilities. You don't want to tell her your weaknesses and the things that you struggle with. You only want to tell her how much money you make, the nice car you got. It's all ego. And so the ego is involved with everything, and the ego is destroying mankind. So that's why I pay attention to my ego.
Dang, that's deep, bro. Oh man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, I could go forever on that, but
Man, no, that's fascinating, bro. Seriously.
Yeah, and so like when you see the word ego in the Bible and it says the flesh, like it uses the word flesh. It says the flesh and the spirit war against each other. Change the word up a little bit. Your ego and your flesh are at war. I mean, your ego and the spirit, God's spirit, are at war with one another. Your ego is in the way of all kinds of things that He has for you. But yeah.
No, that's wild, bro. I would like to dive into that more.
Whatever you want to do, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
This is good stuff.
Man.
Yeah.
So, how do you be more share with me how you become more aware of your ego. How do you? Because I feel that same urge when I'm reading something. I'm like, all right, can't wait to post this. Like,
I know what you mean. I know exactly.
And like share what I learned, and I'm just like,
yeah,
that's the ego. I'm like, dang, that's really hit me. Like, but it goes for everything, bro. It literally goes for
And there's nothing wrong with being excited with sharing things with people, but it's just sometimes people forget about themselves.
What do you mean forget about themselves? What?
Like they forget to pay attention to their own ego. Like I might learn something and then I might want to share it with you or my other friends, but I try to pay attention to that and be like, how does this thing apply to my life? Or if I hear a sermon, am I like, all right, I'm going to send, this person needs to hear this video. They need to see this. I'm going to send this. Like, no, how did it apply to you?
Dude, that's, yeah. You ever heard of the spot it, you got it thing?
You spot it, you got it.
Like in psychology, just like if you spot something negative, if you spot something positive, then you got that same thing, whether you...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that
I didn't know that the name of that.
Do you agree with that? If you like spot something negative in somebody else, then you have that same thing, or if you spot something positive,
you have judgment and you have discernment. Like judgment is, it's a hypocritical thing where, yeah, like what you said, you have something and you can see it in other people, but you're willing to point it out in other people, but not in yourself. So you have this hypocritical judgment, but then you also have discernment where maybe you don't struggle with that thing, but you do recognize that this person may be crazy. But a lot of people just tend to forget, like, they need help. The ego does not like to see itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes into...
how do you get better at, like...
Right.
Yeah, dealing with the ego, or, like...
That's a good question. When you wake up in the morning, for 15 minutes, don't do anything. 15 minutes to 30 minutes, or maybe even to an hour if you want to go, you really want to accept the challenge. I challenge people to try it. For 15 minutes, when you fully awake, don't lay in bed anymore. Just sit up. Don't turn on any music. Don't watch any videos. Don't go to any social media. And go into a state of like meditation, a silent prayer, being still and knowing God. And don't say any words. Don't pray a prayer because your ego wants to pray a prayer and say, God, give me some money, give me a nice job. No, don't do that. Sit still for 15 minutes to an hour and do absolutely nothing. You'll see how absolutely insane your ego is. It is tripping out. You don't have control over your ego.
Dang.
It's just talking. It's like, when is this 15 minutes going to be up? Maybe I need to set a timer on my phone so I know, like, all right. Oh, you set a timer on your phone for 15 minutes just to be still and be in quietness. And the ego's like, all right, you're sitting still in quietness. The ego's like, okay, how many minutes have gone by? Oh, 5 minutes. Ego cannot sit still. The ego is opinionated. It doesn't want to know the truth about things. It just wants to accept its own truth. The ego will even try to interpret the Bible for you when you read the Bible. So that's why I say pay attention to the ego, because the ego will create a false doctrine as well. The ego is absolutely insane, and that's why I've heard some people call it the ego is the nature of Satan.
Dang, that's crazy.
So Yeah, I didn't know we were gonna talk about ego, but
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah,
this is
it's
good.
something that it's very rare that some people know about this type of thing, and like I don't have many people like that's why I asked you is because you have your ego like more in check than most people, so I just wanted to like
I try my best. But
I mean
yeah.
yeah, and from my perspective, you have
Yeah.
your ego in check more than most people, so and so that's why I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah. Well, to answer it in a daily life applicable situation, not just sitting still for 15 minutes, um, I'd say just practice awareness. Like awareness would be like when you're paying attention to what's going on in your head when outside situations are happening. So, for example, if I don't know, your family member is mad about something or argumentative, rather than getting frustrated with that family member or whatever, pay attention to what's going on in your head while that person's tripping out. And you'll see your mind's judging them, it's coming up with something to say, and you don't have to say anything. Just sit still, just let them trip out and have a soft response. And this is a biblical concept. You know, a soft answer turns away wrath. We know this to be true, but the ego feels the need to have to prove to people something. So it wants to trip out with that person. Pay attention to what's going on in your head. That's how you be aware of the ego and keep it in check. Because you know, even for me, like I went to a restaurant today, and a Chinese restaurant, and a woman down there, I ordered food. First lady, she was really nice, you know. The other lady that came to bring out my food, I asked her if she had some chopsticks, right? And she kind of just looked at me kind of crazy. I was like, do you guys have chopsticks? I was super polite. She just kind of was like, you know. And then she was like, yes. She gave me some chopsticks. All right, I'm waiting for my food to come. Finally, she brings my food out. And I'm like, you know, I'll just try to be polite. You know, maybe she's having a rough day. I don't know. And then I said, I was like, oh, thank you. You know, and smiled at her. And then she just kind of looked at me like, and it's so, boom, ego starts tripping out. My ego. And it's like, oh, maybe she doesn't like black people. Oh, you know, don't come back to this restaurant. They don't deserve your money. You saw a cockroach over there earlier. Maybe you can call a manager and complain about something. Ego's tripping. So I'm just like, dude, what the heck is that going on in my head? I wasn't really doing that. But in that split moment, though, I was just like, you know, maybe she's having a rough day. But the ego's coming up with all kinds of assumptions. And so, yeah, just pay attention to it.
That's good, bro. Yeah, you have a lot of practice in that, I feel like, and it's just so I wanted to ask you about that. I appreciate you talking about that. Why is it so hard to sit still and just like be in the moment? Like, why is it so hard to do that?
To be in the moment, I
think, and like you said, just be silent, you know. And like, why is it so hard? Why are we just always? Is it just like human nature, or is it just because we're so distracted these days or busy, or?
I think I'll answer this the best way I can, but a lot of people identify with their emotions. So, for example, if you feel like you are an unattractive person, you know, in your mind, you know, maybe you're not the most attractive person in the world, but in your mind, you're constantly telling yourself, because you're not the most attractive person in the world, that people aren't going to like you. And it could be true in some instances, you know, like if you're not attractive, people won't really even pay attention to you. But there are people who aren't like that. But you pass over them because you've just already assumed people don't like me because I'm unattractive. I used to do it because of my skin color. Because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm black, so anytime I see a white person, you know, they probably have a prejudice towards me. Just an automatic assumption. Go to a church, think that. I have so many white friends that aren't like that. And, but I remember there was a time in my life where my ego genuinely thought that pretty much everybody was racist. And then one day, I realized, I was like, dude, I have so many white friends who, like, love me. but wasn't even paying attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are doing that. So many people are doing that. You got friends that love you, but in your mind's telling you, nah, you're suspicious of this person. You feel like you need to have a relationship. So the mind's going crazy trying to figure out how to get a relationship. Or you feel like you have to smoke a joint. And so you have your emotions, and I think it's like a lack of self-discipline. And then, like I said, it's just a nature that we have to overcome. And it needs to be brought in under submission. But people lack discipline.
Man, dude, I'm kind of mind blown with the whole ego thing, because it's like, it's just crazy to me. But so you're making some noise, man, and what's your purpose behind like what you're doing? I know John asked you this in the podcast, like what your reason why you're doing it or something like that. He asked you, or just to that effect, and I was just wondering, like, I want to know like what your purpose is behind making this content, and yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm still trying to learn as I go, but I'd say the reason why I'm doing it is because, I think that a lot of people, whether they're religious or not, they're enslaved by their own thoughts in their head, and especially Christians, because a lot of Christians think that God is out to get them. You know what I mean? Like they don't like, a Christian will say, like, they believe that God loves them, but they don't actually truly believe it, though. They say it with their mouth because they see it in the Bible, but they don't actually believe it. They also don't realize how free they actually are. And so a lot of people are sitting like birds in a cage, and then you open the cage and the bird doesn't come out because it still thinks the cage is closed or something. Or like a horse tied up, if you untie the horse, it still thinks that it's tied up in its head, but it's not. Or like in the Bible, Israel, that Moses took Israel out of Egypt. They're walking around free. They used to be slaves. Now they're free. But the problem was they were in the desert. And some people were like, look, I'd rather go back to slavery than be out here in the desert, walking around in the heat. I'd rather go back to slavery. And that's what a lot of people, that's how they live their life. It's like, dude, you're free. No. Just figure out how to get out of the desert. You're free, though. But some people would rather go back to something that's guaranteed, like a guaranteed meal every day. And I think a lot of Christians default to just going to church and waiting to die to go to heaven rather than experiencing heaven on earth. They've enslaved themselves for the rest of their life until they die, rather than being able to experience heaven on earth today, which is the whole purpose as to why Christ came.
Mm. But so I understand what you're saying. So, but do you still believe in heaven after you die? Or?
Yeah, there's no heaven. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. No, I believe in heaven. Yeah.
Okay. Because that was something I was kind of confused about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with like just the whole like, yeah.
Man, that's amazing, man.
So I'm glad you.
Bro, ask all your questions, man, because I know a lot of people. Dude, you can ask me anything, bro. Like,
okay.
Like a lot of people, I know, because I don't use any Christian lingo when I talk. So people are thinking, like, is this guy like? Does he read the Bible? Like, yeah, no, I read the Bible. I just don't use Christian lingo because I just don't think it works in a world where people aren't interested in that.
I agree with that, 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, tell me more about like what drives you? Like, I want to know like what drives you to work out, like, and what drives you to like, work hard at your job, like, because you've been a pretty consistent person in life, like with your job, and like, you've moved up and you're just, you're moved up, you're doing working out, like you're a pretty disciplined person. So what drives you to and you're making content now, so it's like, what drives you? I want to hear about like what drives you to work so hard in life and just keep pushing.
Yeah, dude. That's actually deeper than you could think. That's deep because I know, like, yeah, no, it's not just like, oh yeah, just be motivated. Like, no, man, I think it comes from a very, very deep. How do I put this? All right. I believe that, I have a purpose. I was born with a purpose, and I need to live as long as I can to fulfill that purpose. So that's one of the reasons why I exercise regularly. I like to bulk up a little bit, put on some muscle a little bit too. But I think that's the main reason, why I exercise and stuff. The reason why, what was the other one? Why
you just work consistently. Like,
work.
I couldn't do that. Like, like as far as having a job like that, I mean, you're grind, like it's tough.
Hold on, I got someone got to put food on the table, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
you know what I mean, like,
I know
just
what you mean. Like, why do you work at it? Yeah, I use my job to fund my vision.
Yeah, for sure.
So I try to bust my butt, and I try to work good, and I try to be a good steward and be a good representative of God and Yeshua, Jesus Christ, to people. And so, I try to work as if I'm working for God himself.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to, whatever I do, I want to do it well and make my employer happy and, not be a hassle to people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that helps to be like a good example for people. And if I have children one day.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's true. What about just like what else drives you to make content? Just like, what drives you to make content?
I think it's just like that. It's what the thing to do right now. You know what I mean? Like, we live in the age of information. Everything's already been built. All the streets and all the roads have been built. The homes have been built. Everything's been built. All the restaurants and everything. People just want information now. They want to read books. They want to buy an online program. They want to watch movies. Everything's just information, data. And so I think for me, I'm like, all right, well, if I want to make an impact in the world and different things, I need to really get involved with media and master the marketing and yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's when you put it like that, everything is like, it's just, it sounds like a no-brainer. Like, man, I should be like, you're just like, you know what I'm saying? You just put things in a simple way where it's like, man, yeah, that's, it's pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah, this is fun, man. And I tell Aaron this because Aaron and we talk on the phone quite often. And he'll always ask me, he'll just call just to ask questions. And I'm like, dude, we can just do this on a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, this is legitimately the type of questions Aaron will ask me on the phone. Like, this is not just him making up stuff. He doesn't even have a script. This is all.
So there's these two conflicting ideas, and I like to talk to you about like conflicting ideas that I have because you like shed light on that kind of stuff. But
okay.
So there's one guy that helps people like, quit addiction and stuff. He was saying he would rather have like 300 options rather than not have options. But he's not a Christian. But do you think it's good to have like options rather than like, because I feel like guys are like, oh, you're just like, when I say that, they're like, oh, you're just trying to like be with tons of girls. And I'm like, no, I'm just asking, like, is it better to have options to be your most attractive self and then have options to choose from, like, or to just be like, oh, the first person you see, you just like marry them and then I'm just talking about like marriage in a sense. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like
You said you're not just talking about marriage.
I'm talking about marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. I got
Like
you. You're
and
talking.
like long term family. Like, is it? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think. Yeah. I'd say, is it better to have options? It's funny that you asked that because this reminds me of that whole red pill, blue pill space. You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
I don't know the whole red pill, blue pill very
Alright.
much, but
Yeah,
you
no,
can
no.
tell me. That.
A lot of guys, they're out there like, they call themselves alpha males and they try to get a bunch of chicks and stuff and whatever. But I know that you're not talking about that. No, I think it's a good sign if more people are attracted to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, it's probably not a good sign if no one's attracted to you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, yeah, I'd say that's a good question. Yeah, I'd say.
But do you
Yeah.
think God is okay with like you wanting to like have more options? Just because, do you think that's okay to just have like options like that, like
Oh.
biblically, you know, like or to marry people, like do you think that's okay to like desire to like be attractive and then
Right.
like does that make sense?
I know.
don't know.
I think. No,
I
know what
don't
you're
know.
saying.
I'm not just explaining it too
No,
well.
you're good. Oh, okay. Let me try to explain to you what I think you're trying to say. You're trying to ask me, is it okay to, like, be like attractive and like have multiple options of women, and like, is it a sin to? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Or- Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd say it just shouldn't be your focus.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good indicator if you're an attractive person, but it shouldn't be like that shouldn't be at the forefront of your mind of like, because this is what they're teaching in the red pill space is like, how do you become more attractive? That's fine, but they're trying to figure how do you become more attractive so that you can get laid.
Mm-hmm.
Just so, and that's at the forefront of men's mind that are into that stuff. So I'd say there's nothing wrong with like wanting to be attractive, exercising, taking care of yourself, making money, and all those different things. But I would just say your purpose should be so. You should be so possessed by your purpose that you wanting to get in a relationship should not be at the forefront of your mind. That every decision you make is about how do you become attractive to the opposite sex. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with being attractive in that sense, but I just say that's not what you should be chasing.
It should just be a byproduct. You're saying?
Yeah,
Kind of
it should be. If you're a man who's going after his purpose, dude, they're gonna love you.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna love you. Period. End of story. But you shouldn't. They're teaching men how to basically make a fake vision for your life and then pursue after that vision so that you can. It's like a gimmick. You're like trying to act like you're a man who has purpose so that you can be attractive. Yeah, no, a man who has purpose is attractive. A man who has purpose, and I'm not talking about just like women, like just to society as a whole. Like if you're a purpose driven person, whether you're a man or a woman, people are going to be attracted to you because they're like, I'm inspired by this person. They might find you physically attractive. They might just want to be in your presence because there's something about you that says like you're living like higher than life itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so, especially if you're a man, but a lot of people try to fake it.
Yeah. No, I understand.
That was a good question, huh? Did I answer it, or is that...
Yeah, you answered it. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Appreciate it. What do you do to recharge in your life? So say you're working really hard on your vision and stuff and your purpose, and like what makes you recharge, or what do you think are some elements of like what makes somebody like a good like Sabbath day or whatever,
Yeah. Like how do you unplug for a little bit?
Yeah.
I would say for me, it's taking practice, man. Like because my mind goes with ideas. It's just like, that's an idea. Oh, I also need to read this book. Oh, I gotta read the Bible too. I gotta pray. Man, I gotta go meet this person. So much going on. So for me, when it's time to just hang out, like let's say I'm with a friend. When it's time to just hang out, I am there. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't. like let's say you're like, hey, let's go bowling. I am there. I'm not on my phone, doing other things. Like I'm hanging out with my friend. Or let's say, uh, like on Sunday, I love Sunday, and I don't say this in a religious sense. Like I do church on Sunday too, but on Sunday I'm like, I literally unplug the wire. Like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to rest all day, I will rest. If I want to play video games all day, I will play video games. Like I'm chillaxing, and I'm not gonna. And I intentionally try not to think about business stuff or what I'm doing tomorrow. I let all that worry about itself. I just worry about today, And with that in mind, just being present. A lot of people you can unplug even when you're like doing on a podcast like that, like right now, like somebody could be doing a podcast like this. Like I could be stressing out as I'm talking to you
Mm-hmm.
because I'm thinking about something else or what I'm going to eat later or what's going on tomorrow. But instead, no, I'm like, no, I am present right here. I'm talking to Aaron. And so with that in mind, I'm at peace because I'm like, all right, I don't have anxiety about your next question. I just present right now, handle things as it comes.
I noticed that about you. Yeah, I think that's what I appreciate about you because you, with your time, you actually sit and listen, and you actually are present, like you said, and you're actually there. Even when we're talking on the phone, it's like I'm a priority. I feel like which I feel like that's really powerful. Being present, is really powerful. So, and I appreciate that about you
Yeah,
as
because
well.
isn't it like doesn't it kind of low key bother your ego a little bit when you're when you're on the phone with your friend and then they just seem like their mind is occupied with something else.
Yeah, dude.
And you're like, dude, let's talk, man. But
Yeah.
they're like, they're over there doing something else. It's like, why'd you call me? So yeah, no, I feel you.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's and so let me talk to you about listening, bro, because I think you're really good at listening. I think that's a skill that you practiced. You must have practiced a lot, and we haven't really talked I too much about it. But yeah, I'm just curious on your thoughts on like how to listen better, and because you really make me feel heard. You're like you actually, and I think that's part of being present. That's why I'm bringing it up. Like that's I think that's part of being present. But how do you listen better? Because you're really, I think that's one of, they say the first act of love, or first duty of love, is to listen, and they say like one of the highest acts of love is listening. You know.
For example, you and I could be talking on the phone, or you could be talking to one of your friends or me or whatever, and you could tell that the other person just wants to say whatever they got to say. You know what I mean? Or maybe if you're hanging out with a friend, they're trying to get something out of you, because you're a YouTuber, and you got 200 something thousand subscribers. So when they're hanging out with you, they're not really hanging out with you. They're trying to hang out with you to get something from you. Try to get a shout out and so what I do is when I'm talking to people, I come with no agenda. I'm like, I'm genuinely like, where's this conversation going? You try to call me at 10 o'clock at night, I'll be like, what's up? Right? I don't know why you're calling. I don't know if you got to ask me something. Hey, And if I genuinely don't want to talk right now because I'm tired, hey, man, I'll talk to you later. And then you're just like, yeah, all right, cool. And so people have a hard time doing just little, simple, basic things like that. It's like, because your mind is occupied with what can I get from this person? And if they can't see what they can get from you, they have no interest in talking to you. So that's why they just seem uninterested. And then I noticed that I did that with people. I used to do that. And when I was, especially in high school and then a little bit after high school, sometimes people used to say to me that they didn't feel like they were heard because I was just trying to talk to them about Jesus. And just like, and they're over there trying to tell me about a problem that they got going on. And I'm over here like, yeah, man, all you need is the Bible. Look. And I just want to tell them what I need to tell them. But some people, they just need you to hear them. They feel like no one's hearing them. So, yeah, for me, I just try to, now, with the whole idea of paying attention to the ego, like, let's say someone wants to hang out with me and I genuinely know I don't want to hang out with them. I don't want to bother them with, acting like I'm uninterested when I'm talking to them. I just tell them, hey, I can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Rather than let them see me not be interested in talking to them.
What you're like, how to be aware and just don't let the ego get involved. You're saying, kind of thing.
Yeah, man.
Listening.
If everybody on planet Earth paid attention to their ego, there would be no problems.
Really? You think so?
There'd be no problems.
Dang.
There'd be no problems. Think about it. If you just think hard about it, if everybody knew what was going on in their own head, take captive every thought that was passing through your head, pay attention to your ego, how you feel about people, and your judgment towards other people, there'd be no wars. There'd be no poverty. If everybody, no one would be homeless if everyone on planet Earth genuinely loved each other. But the ego doesn't like to love people because it takes work.
You're good at this. Is you don't have any expectations. I can think it was kind of tying into what you were saying. How do you not have expectations in a relationship? How do you just like? I'm just talking any relationship, whether it's romantic or whether it's just a friendship or whatever. Like, how do you just like let go of your expectations? Because not a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people have expectations in relationships,
Like you said, how do I handle that? Like not do that?
Yeah.
Have expectations. Do you want just a brief answer? Do you want like a real answer?
You can go in depth. Yeah,
Okay.
real.
Well, okay, the brief answer would be, obviously, keep the ego in check, but all right, we're about to get a little bit philosophical. When God created the world, it was supposed to be heaven on earth. Adam, when God created Adam was not sitting around thinking, where the women at? He wasn't thinking that. He was just doing his thing. So by the time Eve came around, and he created Eve, there was just a knowingness, like, oh, that's my wife. And so, can you imagine if there was truly heaven on earth? Like, truly, if there was heaven on earth, you wouldn't have no expectations from people at all. Meaning, okay, like when you're going out and hanging out with your friends, and then you see a pretty, beautiful woman, and you feel nervous. I don't know, you experience that?
Yeah.
Okay, you feel nervous. Why? Let me ask you a question. Why do you feel nervous? Or in the past, why have you felt nervous when you wanted to go talk to a woman?
I just fear of the if she's gonna because I'm trying to maybe ask for a number or something, so I'm scared of the unknown. I guess scared of the unknown maybe is the best way I can put it. Like,
Nice.
if she rejects me or whatever, or if she doesn't want to talk. But honestly, that doesn't even hurt. Like, rejection doesn't even hurt me, but I still get nervous. Well, not as much anymore, but yeah,
Yeah.
I did get nervous. Yeah.
Right. Well, like you said though, it's like, but there's like an expectation that you have. There's, even if it's the smallest thing, you just want a phone number.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But life was not like that in the beginning of time. There was no such thing as fear, because you didn't have expectations from people. You actually had love for them. When you have expectations from people, you don't love them. You can only have expectations if you don't have love.
Say that again.
I say you can only have expectations from people if you don't have love.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the fact that you're fearful of this girl, because you don't love her, you're just lusting after her. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying people in general. You don't love her. And when I speak about love, I'm not talking about like emotionally feel love. I'm talking about like just peace. Just, you don't love people when you have expectations from them. Because you know why? Because if, for example, if you have a friendship and you have an expectation, and that person doesn't meet your expectation, you're mad.
Mm-hmm.
So you argue, dude, you're supposed to be there for me. Wait, what? Who said that they were supposed to? That was you. Your ego came up with that.
I agree, bro. I agree, 100%.
That's what. This is why the Bible is like, look, there is no fear in love.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fear in love. What? So every time you have fear, it's an indicator that you don't have love.
Like you're lacking a little, lacking it a little bit, or you're lacking it like all. You're just either fearful or you're loving. Like,
well, I'd say period, end of story. But also the other thing is this is, like I said, not to identify with your emotions, because emotionally you feel like you love somebody, but that no. There is no emotions in real love. If you really think about it.
oh yeah, that's true.
There's no emotions. Did Jesus need to feel like he loved you? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Did he feel like he wanted to go to the cross?
No, not at all.
Like he was over there. He was stressed out so bad that blood was coming out of his pores.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't mean to get super deep like that, but I just make that point because like that is something that is applicable to just a daily living situation.
I agree, bro. That's really good stuff, bro. That's really good stuff.
Yeah.
Really good. I love it. So how I wanted to talk about this is how did you become such a well-rounded individual? This is my perception of you, that you're a pretty well-rounded individual. How did you become such a well-rounded individual? Because like listening and like just listening is huge, I feel like, and not having like as much ego or wisdom. You're learning, you're a lifelong learner, all these different things, like good with relationships, like you have long-term relationships, all these well-rounded things that you have. How did you have that without like having parents in your life? How did you like, and having like being where you yeah
when I was younger, I realized I needed to grow up quick, because I was by myself a lot. And so, yeah, with that in mind, I was trying to figure out what's the fastest way that I can mature, as a young man. So I just started learning as much as I can, starting with the Bible. That's why, I didn't really read books at a young age, but, I would hang out with adults all the time. Hanging out with adults and ask them about their life stories and how they handle their relationships, their spouses and children, and just like learning like, oh, okay, this is how people are like as adults, and so with that in mind, hanging out with a lot of adults, at a young age, they helped me get my first job. One of my friends who I'll go and fellowship with him at his house.
That's good, bro. That's some good advice. Just being around people that are like older, that have been around, that have done the thing that you're trying to do, right? Just asking them questions and
just being around, like, get rid of my own knowledge. Like, forget about what I think I know. I just was like, okay, like I'm a young man, I didn't really have like my parents there to help me, so I'm like, I need someone to look towards. So a lot of times I'd end up watching like dudes on the internet, YouTube, sermon, people preaching, and people that I was around. So all that, a combination of all those things, it just helped me to get rid of anything that I thought I knew about life and try to take on people who were already living in a certain way that I wanted. Yeah.
For sure. So do you think that's the reason why you dive into stuff like you were saying, or no? Is that why you like kind of go all in on this stuff because you're just like, or no? Is that part of it or no?
Yeah, like
just
me being young and stuff like.
Or just like like asking like older adults, like, oh, and not having like parents to guide you, because you had to learn on your own. You had to do everything like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that.
Yeah. It just like when I was young, I'm like, man, I can't. Because there was a time in my life where I had depression, and I didn't feel like anyone was there for me. So I was like, okay, I refuse to be depressed and have anxiety and suffer for my whole life. I'm not gonna Like when I was young, I was like, I'm not gonna be a statistic
Mm-hmm.
of some young black kid who got involved with drugs and gangs and all that stuff. That could have been my life. Even though I was living in a neighborhood that wasn't like that, but a lot of young guys they seek after that type of stuff, and I was like, I don't want that. I want peace. I don't want to be. And so with that in mind, I'm like, okay, what do I have to do to have basically live heaven on earth? Because I was living in depression, and I'm like, okay, well, and I'm not gonna just wait until I die to go to heaven to be happy. Like I need to be happy and at peace and have joy right now. And so whatever I had to do to get that, that's what I was seeking after. A lot of times people though they get into crazy stuff to look for peace and happiness and everything else. But I'm like, no, I'm gonna look for peace and happiness, but I'm gonna try to figure out how to do it the right way. And so with that in mind, going back to the whole, having self-discipline and stuff, like if I'm in my head, I'm like looking in the long-term distant future, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, what will my life be like in 30 years from now if I continue this habit over here or continue chasing after these type of women or, and so I just was like, when I look at other people and I ask, I would even ask other people who look like they're struggling in life. I'd ask them I asked them their life story. And I'd be like, okay, whatever they did, I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? So with that in mind, I'll be like, I would get wisdom from people who had wisdom, and I would also learn from the mistakes from people who made terrible decisions in their life. And yeah, just felt like I had to.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I think, so would you agree with this? I know we talked about it, and would you agree that people that start, like, because you kind of started off, like, with, like, less than most people as far as, like, your probably emotions, right? Or as far as, like, what you had, like, I'm not saying, like, financially, I'm just, or maybe that too, but just, like, in general, like, communication skills or, like, I mean, I know I saw your transformation and you were like, you used to be really skinny, like you started off like really skinny, but I was just curious on like, do you feel like you were like, and then you said you didn't read, you were like almost put in, like classes.
Yeah, I was like with the like special ed like in high school. Yeah.
In high school, you were how long? Like couple, like even through.
Like when I was in high school, yeah, I was pretty lazy, and so I had terrible grades. And I remember they're like, wait, so they found that when I was in elementary school, that I had this reading and writing disability. So they were like, all right, well, this would kind of like be the excuse as to why he's getting bad grades. And then like but then towards the end of school, I was like, I'm just lazy, dude. So I got all my grades together and I passed high school and everything. And I remember they asked me, they're like, what? How did you go from like here to here? And I mean, I read a passage in the Bible that said, work as if you are working unto the Lord. And at this time, I was going to church quite often. And I was like, I've never applied that principle to my life. Like maybe that's something that I need to try because I really want to get out of high school. I don't want to be here. And, maybe I'll go to college or something, but I'm like, okay, I'll work as if I'm working in the Lord. And then, I end up passing. And, but yeah, with, you asked me about like, how did I, what was it again?
Oh yeah, I was just saying like, so you feel like I mean, in some aspects in life, you're more behind than most people, right? Like as far as your maybe physical and then all body and then also your your intellectual. You felt like now you have how many books out? Like 4?
Like 3 or something.
Yeah. So and I don't
but I'm writing another one and I'm probably gonna get rid of the other ones because I'm like the other ones where I'll just put my foot in the water.
For sure. I feel that, man. I deleted some of my books too. Like,
I feel you, dude. I feel you, man.
I was like, this one's better than delete another one. Then, but I feel like, yeah. Anyways, but so you had a disadvantage. What I was getting at is you had a disadvantage, like reading wise, right? Now you're writing books. Now you're reading more books than, I mean, most people. I think the average, what's the statistic? You probably know it. It's like the average person reads like one book after high school or something. And then like after college, there's like, or something crazy like that. It's like, and most people aren't lifelong learners, and you are, at first you had a disadvantage in that. So my point is, and all saying this, do you believe that people that have like start on a lower level on something and then like, and then they exceed that level, like they exceed like the baseline of like normal, because most people start off at like maybe started off at like a higher level than you, but you actually, I feel like push past that level. You started off lower, but push past that level, way past that. I don't know if you agree with that, but Ed Milet was saying that he started off with way less confidence, way not as big, and then he pushed himself past that. I don't know if you can explain that, like, or if you have any thoughts on that, or in your own life or just in general.
But basically, what you're asking me is like how in like all the areas of my life, whether it's like physical or spiritual or confidence and everything, how did I get from like, or like reading books, how did I get from like not having and then being able to get to a certain point?
Yeah, so I didn't explain that. I was trying to explain it.
You're good. Yeah, I would say, man, it's just so many different like layers to that I'd say when it came to confidence, dude, I remember that, like, not being confident. That was terrible. That is not a good feeling, like lacking confidence, bro. Now I lacked confidence when I talked to people in general, or if it was like a girl, I used to lack confidence. The thing was with me was I never felt like I lacked confidence in my ability to do something. It was more of like, how do I put it? At some point in my life, when was that? Rewind back in time. Let's go back in time, bro. You just hit something. Okay. 2017. I was living at my grandfather's house. How old was I? 24 or something? 24, 25, whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, like life sucks. I would get on like Christian dating sites and try to talk to a girl, and then things would be cool, and then things wouldn't work out, and then I talked to another one, things would be cool, they wouldn't work out. And then I'm over here, I got a job, okay, I don't like this job, I should get another job. They all are low paying jobs, and and then I felt like I lacked confidence when I don't know what that was. That's weird. When I had to encounter people like in conversation, I felt nervous and lacked confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I started getting into bodybuilding and exercising, and I looked good and everything, and I got buff. I built my confidence a little bit, mainly when I was having communication with other men, because I'm the muscular one in the group. But I'm like, it's just a gimmick. It's just a gimmick. Like, if I'm not muscular, I feel like I lack confidence. There has to be a way to gain confidence without a gimmick. How could I have confidence all the time? And I realized that like one of the main reasons why people lack confidence is because they don't know something. It's the lack of confidence is kind of like a byproduct of something. Meaning, for example, playing chess, I remember being so bad at chess. But when I learned a couple skills and watched some videos on how to play chess, all of a sudden I'm like, wait, oh, I see the next move I can make. I didn't know that before. And so I started getting knowledge. Or that applied to so many things. You know, I remember when I first got into exercise, I'm like, I kind of felt like I lacked confidence that I was going to build muscle. But then I was like, I started getting knowledge on how to do it. And once I got a little bit of results, I was like, wait, it worked. Mm-hmm. So then I realized, okay, I need to get knowledge. I need to get information, and I need to understand that information. So then when it came to dealing with people, I started understanding people because I started studying the psychology of people and how people think and how they respond. How do they respond the way you dress, the way you talk? You know, how do they perceive you with a certain type of job that you have? I study all these different things. I want to know how people think so that when I go out throughout the world for the rest of my life, I know how to handle people, men and women. And so when I started understanding psychology, I'm like, oh, people aren't complicated. You know, and now I know how to navigate through the world because I've got knowledge. And so maybe that answers the question, but that helped me have just natural. I don't like using the word confidence. And the reason being is because, you know, here's me going philosophical again. But in the beginning of time, there was no such thing as a lack of confidence. It just didn't exist. It didn't exist until mankind fell from God and they fell into ignorance and not knowing who God is. When ignorance came around, fear came around. Okay. And so, yeah. There was no such thing as having fear, man. You were just living your life. Mm-hmm. But fear and lacking confidence, all this other stuff, yeah.
That makes sense, man. That makes sense. I appreciate it, man. Man, this is crazy. You just have so much knowledge. It's fun to talk to you about.
Every time you say it in my mind, I'm like,
dude,
dude, I'm not even lying. I'm not lying. Whenever you say, man, you got so much knowledge, in my head, I'm like, I'm telling you, I genuinely don't feel like I do.
Really? You don't? What goes through your mind when I say that? You just think like, oh, you don't think it's true? Like, what do you think? Like,
well, no. I mean, when you say, man, you got knowledge, my brain, I'm like, I'm trying to think. I'm like, it's nice. That's nice if it helped you, but you know what I'm saying. But like in my head, I'm like, it's just there's so much that I'm trying to learn and understand. Dude, you see all these books over here? All those books over there?
Oh dang, yeah.
I haven't read those books.
All these?
Not all of them. I've read a lot of them, but all these books. I don't get stressed out in life, but I'll just say, if anything does stress me out in life, it's a book that I have not read, because I feel like I don't know something. Mm-hmm. And so I see it and it stresses me out. I'm like, there's something I need to freaking learn over here. There's something I need to learn.
Dude, that's the reason why I think I know that's why you're so knowledgeable. Because Ed Milet says, okay, so he's so, I mean, even Ed Milet was saying he gets so fearful of not being successful or something like that that's why he's successful. Like so the 3 traits of the most successful people, like highly successful, like not just successful, but like millionaires and billionaires and just like really highly successful, is they're insecure. They have a lot more confidence. They have like self-belief. They believe in themselves. And then what was the other one? So they're insecure. And then I forget the other one. You'll have to put it. I forget the other one. But basically, Ed Milet was saying like the reason why he believes the reason why he's so successful is because he's scared of returning to that point. He's scared of returning to the point of like not being successful, and like they say like millionaires are more afraid of losing it all. I'm not saying you're afraid of like, but you are so into consuming knowledge that you just think about what's next. You know, you don't enjoy what you have already learned. You're not enjoying that knowledge. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't like, I was just totally kidding on that, but no, you're not enjoying the knowledge. But I'm just saying like, the knowledge like that you have is kind of like, you don't appreciate it because you're always wanting the more, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the same thing with successful people. Like, they're never, like, the most successful people are never satisfied with, like, Mark Zuckerberg. People be like, oh, he could buy an island and he's like 35 or whatever, 40, and he could just chill out. But Mark Zuckerberg is not going to chill out because that's what got him there in the first place. You know, like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they work a lot, you know? Right, Elon Musk works like 80-hour weeks, and I feel like that's why 100-hour weeks, and I feel like that's why you're so knowledgeable is like because you keep seeking that, but you don't like. But if you were like, oh, I learned enough, like, you know, I'm like, you know, you would not be in that place that you are right now if you were content with what you had, and I feel like a lot of people are more content, they're comfortable, you know. With what they, I don't know. That's
no,
what
no,
I see.
no. See, man, no, I see what you're saying. I know what you mean. It's like my brain is on a mission to become like the best version of whatever I can be, and so internally, I genuinely feel like I can do all things through Christ. I really feel like it. And this is gonna sound weird to you, but every now and then, if I walk across water, I'll try to step on the water to see if I can walk across it, to see if I have enough faith. And if I don't have it, I'm not. In my mind, I'm like, dang, dude, I still don't have enough faith. And so, you know, I've prayed for people to get healed, and I've seen people healed. I've prayed for. I've seen crazy things and stuff, and I believe God 100,000%. You know, but I just want to be the best version of whatever He put within me. I want to get it all out, but I don't feel like I can get it all out unless I know how to get it all out, and that's why I read books.
You say that again. That last part.
I want to become the best version of what I can possibly be. Whatever He put within me as a man, and I say this about other people too, you know, men and women, you, like, whatever God put within me, whatever God put within you, it's like I want to see that all come out to its fullness. But in the process of trying to get that, I can't do it in my own power. Mm-hmm. You know, so, you know, with that in mind, I asked God, I said, God, I said, give me the wisdom of Solomon. This is the part I was going to tell you earlier. I was in my car in 2017, and I prayed in my car that God would give me the wisdom of Solomon. I was, give me the wisdom of Solomon. And I said, if you're not going to give me the wisdom of Solomon, I said, guide me to the wisdom. If you're not going to impart it to me, just guide it to me. Lead me to the right books, the right people, the right information, or whatever. So I'm constantly looking for, like, all right, there's something I don't know. There's something I don't know. If I get triggered by something emotionally, I'm like, okay, there's something I don't know. There's something I don't know here. You know what I'm saying? Or like, I want to know. I want to know everything. Not everything. I want to know as much as I can about life, people, purpose, what God has for us in His creation, and I don't feel like I can get to wherever He wants me to get to unless I have knowledge.
Yeah. No, for sure, bro. I'm on the similar path, except like, for me, I'm like, it's just a little different, but I want to achieve.
This feels like a Joe Rogan podcast. We're getting real deep and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, dude, I really, I really respect that about you, and I'll tell you, like, I don't say that lightly when I say you're the most, like, the wisest person for your age, or the most knowledgeable person for your age. Like, I would say, like, under 40, I don't know anybody under 40 that has as much wisdom as you, as much, like, knowledge or wisdom, and I'm just like, and I don't say that lightly. Like, I've met a lot of people, and I continue to meet a lot of people, and and so I really, I think that's what makes you successful, bro, is that hunger for more, though. Like, obviously, I just think that's what makes you successful. Like, it's, yeah.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, man. I guarantee you, if I let you read the 3 books that I read in my whole life, you'll have as much knowledge as me.
The 30?
3 books. I've only read 3 books in my life. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, I was confused. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. That's fine. We got about 30 minutes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I really, I don't know. I want to kind of stick on that for a second, because
No problem.
that's really, I like to ask people about stuff that they're an expert in. You know, I like to, and you're an expert on learning, I feel like, compared to, like, if I look around, I just look around, and I know, like,
okay, let me ask you something. What is it that you feel like I know that you don't know?
I mean, what do you not know? It's like, yeah. Like, every time I come with you, like, with a question, like, you don't just spit out a Bible verse. Okay, so, for example, one of the most knowledgeable people I know, the most knowledgeable person I know, he's knowledgeable in the Bible, and it's like, every time I say something, he, like, shares his opinion, which is okay, but you share, like, a whole story, and you know, like, the in-depth of, like, more well-rounded, I guess is the right word, of knowledge, where it's like, you share a story, you don't just know a concept, you know 10, because, like you said earlier, you know 10 times more about a concept that you can explain it to me like a 3-year-old, because I ask questions like, why is this way? And then you're like, well, Aaron, it's like this story. You share a story, and then it shares, like, the whole, like, the whole picture of it, versus just, like, one side of it. Like, this is the answer. You don't just get, like, does that make sense? You do, like.
Nah, I know what you. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you were saying, like you know, some people just yeah, you'll ask a question about something, like, I don't know, it could be something simple, like, what is the purpose of money or something, and then someone will just be like, quote a Bible verse, the love of money is the root of all evil, and then that's it, and then I'm over here, I'll break it down, and because I think, how do I put this? When I talk to someone about something, I only talk about what I know. If I don't know, I just, I don't know. And and I'll be the first person to admit that I'm wrong. I'm willing to learn, dude. I'm willing to learn and be to be corrected, because I'm trying to know more. I won't get offended, but yeah, like, especially, like, when it comes to, like, the kingdom concept in the Bible. You know, if somebody were to ask me a question about the kingdom concept, I don't just quote a verse. I try to go into the history of kingdoms outside of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And I do that intentionally, because for me, I feel like a person won't understand something if you're just focused on the face of it. They need to hear other concepts. They need to hear stories. They need to hear analogies. They need to know the why behind the why behind the why. And if they could see, like, a big picture of something, they can understand the simplicity of it. But you can't understand how simple something is unless you understand the complexity of it. And so, with that in mind, like, yes, you know, the people always say, no, it's the simplicity of the gospel. Yes, it is the simplicity of the gospel. But even Apostle Paul said, y'all people out here, you're just getting the milk right now. You know, there are some deeper truths, some meat that God wants you to have. But there are people that aren't ready for it. So, and my way of trying to help people go from just a basic level of understanding of Jesus Christ, I have to go in depth on why they think the way they think about certain passages, about the Bible, about Christ. I have to break down their own life story. I'll say, look, most people go to church, they were raised in church, this, that, and the other, and they were taught this about this verse and that and that and that. And when I break it down, then they're like, okay, snap, like, this guy understands like the average life of a Christian. So once they feel like they understand that I understand them, then I can go into breaking down, like, you know, because a lot of Christians think that Jesus Christ came to bring a religion, but he came to bring a kingdom. And when you hear that, your mind's like, oh yeah, because Jesus said, you know, repent for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So then I break down all the concepts. I go into the Hebrew and Greek and then try to, like I said, use analogies and parables and just as much as I can to get someone to understand something simple. And that's why I learned so much, because that's what it took for me to understand whatever it is that I know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see. I see exactly what you're saying. So yeah, like the best way to learn something is to teach it, don't you think? Is that true or no?
I think it just depends on the context of that situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it just depends on the like, because like if you're a pastor or something, like, you know, you need to learn something real quick and then you got to go preach it or something or whatever. But I think, you know, the best way to learn would really be to learn for yourself. But learning something to teach, I wouldn't say that's a bad idea, but I would just say it's probably better to learn for yourself so you can understand for yourself.
There's one guy, Jim Quick. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But, like this one guy, Jim Quick, he said, learn with the intention of teaching, though. Like he said, because if you're trying to learn with the intention of teaching, that you'll grasp it so much better, or whatever. I don't know what you think about that.
It could be true. Yeah, I don't know. I might have to test that concept.
Yeah. What about? He said the best way to take notes is to create notes too. He said because like he said like your brain is like if you the worst way to take notes is to take notes exactly how it is, because then,
right.
Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but he
that's
said,
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of reminds me, like, John asked me last time we did a podcast together. He asked me about my notes on Proverbs. And, like, when I take notes on, like, when I'm reading the Bible, I don't write the actual verse. I write the principle and concept that I got out of the verse. And then, and then I try to see if that's what it actually meant. But, yeah.
For sure. So, have you always been how has the journey of connecting with people been? Because you have, like, I mean, you know how to connect with people. From what I've seen, you connect with people very well, from what I've seen. So how has that journey on connecting with people been? Because I mean, you said in the beginning, yeah, just start, can you take me through the journey of, like, when you first started, like, trying to socialize versus now, how much, like, better you are at, like, socializing and connecting with people, getting them to, like, understanding people and all that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, connecting with people, that's interesting how you... I'd say, yeah, like, for me, how I told you, I don't like to say I'm an introvert or that's an extrovert. I don't like doing that. It might be true, but what do you call that test? The 16 personalities test. You ever did that test?
Yeah.
Well, on there, mine is like, it's so funny. I've taken the test like every year since 2016, and for like how many years? Probably for like 3 years or so. I kept getting one personality, but then over time it changed to a different one, and it just kept staying consistent with that one, and then it changed to another one. And But the reason I bring that up is because the personality test, it always shows that I'm like uh, 50 or 49% extroverted and 51% introvert or something like that. So it's like half and half. And in my mind, I've always saw myself as an introverted person, simply because I can be by myself for long periods of time and not care, and I enjoy being by myself. And then I used to feel like that social anxiety when I was around people. And like I said, paying attention to what's going on in my head and stuff when I'm around people, I realized, like, I'm like, man, I think people are thinking things about me that they're probably not thinking. And then also, like, having expectations when I show up to hang out with people or go to a group or a birthday party or a Bible study or just whatever, go play volleyball with people. There's always like a sense of nervousness or like feeling like I need to crack a joke or something to make people think I'm funny so that they'll like me. And so I just stopped doing all that stuff. And I'm like, I just practiced being my true self when I was around people. And then also at the same time, being my true self, being aware of how people are responding to me when I'm around them, and like knowing how to adjust, how I am with certain people, having discernment of people and discernment of, what's going on in my head. That helped me become better socially with people. And
say that in a simple way, like,
my bad.
No, you're good. I just wanted people to understand, and I want to understand what you're saying there.
Okay.
It's a really good.
Okay. Yeah, to simplify it, I try to pay attention to what's going on in my head when I'm hanging out with people, like, and I just relax, just kick back, relax. If I'm at a birthday party, like, I'm not sitting there trying to figure out how to make everybody think I'm funny. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I used to do that, because I had the social anxiety. I'm like, I need everybody here to like me. And I'm like, okay, I don't have expectations anymore. I don't. If no one likes me, that's fine.
Yeah.
But now when I go somewhere, I'm chilled out. I talk to people. If I could tell this person's not interested in talking to me, I just won't talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than sitting there trying to figure out how to get this person to like me, I'm like, no, I'll go talk with this dude. Mm-hmm. All right, oh, he has the crazy hair. Hey, what's up, crazy hair? What's up? And hang out. But yeah, and then I also pay attention to how people are responding to me. Like, if I walk up to somebody and I can tell that maybe they're just suspicious of me, and then maybe when they're talking to me, they're kind of condescending or kind of rude, and I can tell, I'm like, oh, okay, I don't feel right talking to this person. They seem like they don't want me around over here. All right, I extract myself from that situation. I go talk to someone else or whatever. So yeah.
Heck yeah.
Oh, was that simple? Is that simple?
Yeah, I like that. I appreciate that. That's really good.
People are overthinking things. They're overthinking things, just even in just a daily interaction with people. Yeah. Do you feel like that? Or is it?
Overthinking. Yeah, I'm the king. I used to be like the king of overthinking. Like. Okay. So. Man,
almost out of battery. We could bring it to a close now because it's almost out of battery. But
okay.
Whatever we want to talk about right now, it's all good.
One last question. What's the impact you want to make on the world? Like, say, on your deathbed, you're just like, what kind of impact do you want to make on the world?
Yeah, man. Whatever God put me on earth to do, I want to make sure that His vision for my life is completely fulfilled, and whatever His vision is, I know it has to do with people and helping people experience heaven on earth and having peace and restoring families. And so whatever I have to do, whether that's like become a good illusionist and inspire people, and they're like, oh man, you used to be whatever, and now you're an author, and now you're a magician. It's inspiring. How'd you get to the place you're at in life? And then I share them my life story, and maybe my life story will help them. Or like, I just want to see people's lives change, man. Like, people are living hell on earth, and even people who go to church, their life is like hell on earth. And so I just want to I want to see people happy, free in Christ, not feeling like they're a slave to religion. I want to show people that their potential, and so with all those things in mind, that's like the impact that I want to make in life. In all Lord willing, and however he wants that to go. Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, I appreciate it, bro. This has been a blast, man.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate it, dude.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. We'll get this edited and on your channel.
Heck yeah, dude.
Any last words you needed, or you good?
I appreciate you guys listening, and be sure to subscribe, hit that notifications bell for his channel and also my channel as well. Appreciate
Awesome,
it.
Man. Creed Podcast. God bless.